Hello, Mark. ¿Cómo estás?
Good afternoon, Antonio. Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien. Que ya estás ensayando el inglés porque sabes que el invitado de hoy es internacional, ¿o qué?
Lo tengo un poco oxidadito, pero bueno, vamos a ver.
Bueno, pues habrá que desoxidarlo porque la historia de nuestro invitado de hoy, yo no conozco a nadie que la tenga y tenemos una gran fortuna de tenerlo aquí con nosotros. Lo tenemos en sala de espera. La gente va a alucinar con la historia que nos viene ahora encima. ¿Le damos paso?
Dale para adentro.
Muy bien. Hello, Ron. How are you?
Hey, good, Antonio. How are you? Hey, Mark.
We're very happy having you here today in our afternoon, your morning, almost afternoon as well.
Yeah, it's afternoon. I think you're 6 hours ahead of us. So
6 hours ahead.
1 o'clock here.
Yes, because for people have to know, Ron is based in Toronto, in Canada.
One of the coolest cities I've ever met. I know that Toronto, besides having one of the highest towers in the world, the CNN Tower, it also has like an underground city, right?
Yeah, we have a path system. So it's kilometers of underground shops. It connects all the financial district all the way up to Midtown. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Guys, let's go on because today we won and we're going to reflect about a very important issue we've been touching from other angles. I want to tell to our audience, to our friends who are following us, Café con Valores, that we are always reflecting about global values. And there are situations when some values, those global values, clash. And when this happens, and these values are driven to extremes, different events happen, different horrible situations happen, like terrorist attacks, for example. And there's a specific one we all remember. The one happened on 9/11 in New York, in the World Trade Center. And you have to know that Ron is maybe the person who best can give us more knowledge about what happened this day because he was there. So who is this amazing man? Who is Ron? Because I've met you, Ron, for several times, you know, so I can say that you're an amazing man. We're having a good friendship. I have here quite long biography. I'm trying to read it properly. But Ron Difrancesco is a Canadian who moved to New York in year 2000 to follow his dreams of working in the financial capital of the world. He was a broker working on the 84th floor in the World Trade Center on September 11th. He was there that day. He's said to be the last known survivor of the South Tower of the 9/11 tragedy. That day changed our world, as you all know, and Ron's life forever as well. As the last man to make it out of the South Tower, Ron has experienced the personal pain and he still struggles with PTSD. But with the incredible support of his family and community and his daily focus on mindfulness, gratefulness, and by giving back, Ron has not only survived, but thrived. He was honored with a special edition of Time magazine for 9/11 Portraits of Resilience and was asked to do a movie based on the book The Third Man Factor. He was awarded for his work on resiliency by the Royal Canadian Geographic Society. Ron works with senior leaders and organizations to deliver operational excellence through strategic thinking and mentoring. He shows people and companies how to deal with challenges and how to become resilient in the process. His positive approach has delivered great outcomes. And the last thing I want to add is that Ron is joining the family I created 2 years ago, Efficient Happiness. My company, my purpose and my family. And Ron, that's an official welcome. So thanks to be with us. It's been a bit longer than usually, but I think it's really worth it. What are we going to talk about today, Mark?
It's all on you, Mark.
No,
we're going to discuss about a very beautiful thing, but which at the same time it's so hard to get, which I think it's peace and forgiveness. So because I think that those are two very important words, and two words that we like in our lives, but still they are so difficult to manage and to get in our today's world, right? So Antonio, if you want to introduce the first.
Yes, as we always do in Café con Valores, we start with a news. It's actually something what was published in Canada, by the way, Ron, as you know. There's a news that talks about the Holocaust Remembrance Day that was like 1 week ago, more or less, more than 1 week ago, 1 week, 15 days, more or less. And why we decided to bring this topic is because one of the survivors to that event, the Holocaust, was asked about what he lived when he was in Europe at that time in the World War II, and lived the Holocaust. And he was asked about the comparison between what he lived and what is happening today about the lockdown we're living due to the coronavirus, to COVID-19. And this man, Eli Gott, he said that what we're living today is not that tough. I mean, he has a worse experience when he lived the Holocaust in World War II. This news is just an excuse, as you know, Ron, to start my first question. How would you tell people to face a problem that is maybe not as big as other that happened in the past?
Yeah, so thinking about what's gone on now with coronavirus, and it is a big problem for our world. And it's, there's things throughout history like the Holocaust, and then 9/11, and then now coronavirus on what's happening in our world. It's very difficult for people to understand and comprehend, but you can eventually see the good of after what's happened. So this is a very challenging time for many people, right? To have this virus upon us. And now that we have a vaccine, things are getting a little bit better. But for months on end, people were very frightened, couldn't leave their houses. I think you were in lockdown, correct? For a while. We're in lockdown still now. And, we've had friends of ours who've lost parents, and it's affecting more of the seniors, but it's affecting everybody. But to not be able to say goodbye to somebody, right? To see them, like to say goodbye on a video call. We're humans, right? We need interaction, we need touch. And it's very difficult for us to do that. I think though, you see the light at the end of it is that people are doing different things now to get them through their days. Like we can't see our kids every day. We can't have them for dinner, right? They don't live with us. So we see them outside. And that's difficult, but we do appreciate times with them. So we learn to do things with them that would be enjoyable. So we will go for a walk in the middle of winter. And then after our walk, we will sit outside and have a cup of coffee. Café con Valores. And enjoy our time like that. And you need to do different things to make you appreciate what we have, right? And it's a small moment in time. It's gone on for a very long time now. It's 14 months, I think, basically, that the coronavirus started back in December in China. December 2019, and now we're in 2021. So it's a long time for all of us because we're social beings, but we're going to be okay, and we're getting out of it, right? So there's a positive to it. We see what we need, what we value, and where we can go for it.
Mark, do you want to continue? Because I know you have great questions.
Well, that's a lot of pressure on me now. Actually, and I think that's the comparison, right, with the article and your experience, like someone that has lived such a tough situation like the Holocaust or the 9/11. When there are other kind of situations like the lockdown for the one that experienced the Holocaust, or when there are wars in the world, and we as citizens see and face these situations, we sometimes face them with anger. But I wanted to know your experience, because I don't know if it's a Christian value or a religious value, the forgiveness one, but how do you understand forgiveness, or because you faced a situation that I think it's quite hard to forgive somehow, but I'm not sure, or I don't know if you did forgive it, or how could you tell people, how do you see forgiveness as a value?
So for me, a lot of people asked me right after 9/11, do you hate the terrorists and do you hate the Muslims and that? And it's like, no. And you every one of us has done things that isn't completely right. Those people have been misguided in what they did, right? And whether it's their religion that taught them to do something like that, they're misguided in their beliefs. And we see that now too, like to kill people for your God, right? I don't understand that, but I have sympathy for them. I don't dislike them. I just feel sad for them, right? That they don't have a clear thought on what life should be like, and should we all be able to get along. And you think about, I don't know how when you grew up, but when I grew up as a Catholic, and my parents could only marry Catholics, right? And Muslims could only marry Muslims, and whites could only marry whites, and blacks could marry black. But now we're a global world now, right? And we can do whatever we want, and everything, you need to be accepting of everything, right? And I think, and forgive people for what they're misguided. Don't judge them, but just try to figure them out. And it's deep rooted in a lot of people. It's, Mark, sometimes maybe the way you grew up affects the way you think, right? So if you grew up in a world of hate, then you are going to grow up hating people, right? And, and if you're fighting for your religion, well, maybe you should look and see what other religions are, right? And what they provide to help you understand that, we're global citizens in this world, that we can all get along, right?
This is quite interesting, because, well, as you know, I think it was in 2009 that President Obama was awarded with the Nobel Prize for Peace. And during his speech, when he was in Norway getting the prize, he said many interesting things, because the US at that time was in two wars, in Afghanistan and Iraq, actually direct from the attacks that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And you said that the way you grow up affects the way you act and you think and so on. But President Obama was somehow justifying, or not justifying, but actually he knew he was in that two wars, and still he was awarded with the Nobel Prize. And he said that sometimes, I'm not saying it literally, but somehow it was like, sometimes to defend peace, you need to go to war. And then he talked about the concept of just war, for self-protection and so on. Do you think that the way for peace is actually war, or might be forgiveness instead, or might be education?
And it's difficult. How do you define war, right? Is it a physical battle? Is it a mental battle? Is it an internal battle? Is it, and you think about you growing up or whatever, and if you disagreed with your family on an issue, is that war? It is an internal struggle, right? It's a struggle that you have amongst your family and you lash out. Globally, I think, and with the United Nations, we want to make everybody a unified group of people. We still struggle with that, and certain countries do different things that challenge world peace, right? So is there war justified there? I don't know. I think the war is trying to educate people. I think that would be a better thing. But sometimes I think it's necessary to show. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like war, but I think sometimes maybe it is a bit necessary to educate people, right? So.
And continuing with that, because values are so important that people can go to war for it. And I guess how can that be possible? I mean, if someone asked me to go to war, that would be like, I don't know if there's any reason why I would go to war. I would self-defend, but probably not go to war, like from an initial point of view. So how can values be so important or so different, like globally speaking, in order to initiate a war? Not talking right now. I mean, specifically from the U.S. war with Iraq or Afghanistan, but in any other wars that we have seen in history, some of them are caused because of clashes of values. How do you understand that, or how do you see that?
Well, I even think too about the way the Roman Empire was and how war affected what the Roman Empire was and what it is today now, right? And then you think about even in Spain, an internal war based on the Catalonia region and other regions. It's not war, but it's values that people hold dear to them, right? And you want to promote the best for you and yours. And everybody wants to do that. And I don't know if you guys have kids yet, but you always want the best for your family too, right? And so if you think about that, if you personally want the best for you, you're going to do whatever you can to succeed and make it. If you want the best for your family, you're going to do the same. If you want the best for your country, you're going to do the same, right? So it's inbred in you, but I think it's those who aren't educated enough to see the repercussions of a war and what it could do and the detriment of it, that's challenging. So, if we can be empathetic towards other people and help them understand your point of view, you don't have to be right all the time. And have you done everything today that you did before? You learn from your experiences, right? But you have a different perspective on things.
I have another question. It's not about that topic. Let me move to another one.
Sure.
But it's about values, of course. You have your life values, Ron, as we all have, but we can change values due to situations we live. Would you say, or did you change your values after the 9/11 because what you live, because what your experience, or those became stronger, or how did you live that?
Yeah, so I think after 9/11, so that was right, a defining moment in our world's history. I barely got out of the building. I was banged up quite badly and burned. And I came out after, and I've always been empathetic towards people. And I think, my values, did they change? Probably somewhat, but I saw the good in people after that horrific event. So the people surrounding us were incredible. We had outreach from people around the world trying to help myself and my family get through this situation. And then we had the community itself within where we lived. There were hundreds of people trying to help us out during that time, right? And everybody, the world was struggling at that point, but you saw the good in people, right? And, people, the values that they had, that the outreach, and to make sure that we were okay as a family because of the tragedy that we had, but they were all suffering within their tragedy. So you see the good in people in an event like that, as horrific as it was, right?
But as Mark, I guess you were going to.
No, just for that question, when at university we talk about Hobbes and Locke, one of the main questions that we try to solve is whether we think that human beings are like good or bad, like deep inside of us, like do we need the state to protect us or not? So you saw the good in people in that situation. Do you think that in general there is good in people, or do you think that evil prevails in people?
Yeah, so I think, there is good in all of us, right? And like I had mentioned before, we try to do good for us, right? Your values, Mark, may be different than Antonio's, may be different than mine. But if you believe in and you're passionate about your thing, there's good in you trying to promote your movement, right? I don't think, to say there's I think we all have good in us. There's bad sides, or we do things that are wrong in subconscious, but on the whole, all of us are good people, right? You may not like some of the things that I do, and I may not like some of the things that you do. Do I think you're not a good person? Absolutely not, right?
Don't you think there are no bad people?
I think people do bad things. I don't think they're bad people. And maybe they're misguided, right? So why would you hijack a plane and drive it into a building, killing thousands of people?
I think I somehow agree with that, because in the end, we act accordingly to our values in general. So it's very difficult that someone acts differently to what he thinks deep inside of himself or herself. But if you go around the world and you speak with people from different countries, you will see that most of their values, and this is actually our purpose as well, and the issue of speaking with people around the world, that's one of the purposes, right? To understand if values are so different all over the globe. And you realize that they are not so much different. So we all like respect, we all like honesty, life, respect, solidarity, and so on. So in general, the values that guide people are pretty similar. It might be sometimes that a few people are misled and their values are.
Yeah, and I think too, like if you looked at a family in Spain, and you looked at a family in Canada, and you looked at a family in Afghanistan, they all probably have the same values for their family, right? They may just have different ways of doing things, but they all still have values that they care for their families. Right? It's like for you to hate Canadians who hate Afghanistan people, I don't understand that at all, right? I have a difficulty on comprehending that.
And Ro, what is the most important value for you? That's our key question.
The coffee with values. Coffee is my
Coffee is a good value.
No, you know what? I think empathy, right? We need to be empathetic towards everybody, right? And I'm grateful for all I have, and it's great to meet you guys as well, right? And as a global world now, to connect quickly in the last few months and start working on a project which is going to be hopefully help the world is amazing, right? And so to understand everybody and to be empathetic towards everybody in their movement, I think is important.
Why are we not as empathetic as the world needs? Like in general, do you think people is empathetic enough to have a better world?
Yeah, is it maybe because of what's happened to me? But I see, you see the good in people. And I always talk to people, when I talk to them, I always say, be kind, because every person you meet is having an internal struggle or a battle that you know nothing about, right? Like if you think about you, Mark, everything on the surface may look great, but you may be struggling internally. We don't know that, right? Be kind. And I think it was Simon Sinek who said, there's people out there who really, really struggle, and you need to help, not change them, right? Or I think he was talking about a salesperson who the last 3 quarters didn't have great sales. So a large organization can say, you didn't make it, you're gone. A smart, empathetic leader would say, what are your struggles? How do we help you to become more successful, right? So be empathetic towards those people to help understand them. And I think that's your mission too, in Efficient Happiness, right? It's just how you do that to help people succeed. Because if we all succeed and we're happy, right, then we're going to flourish.
It's nice to hear that you said the thing of being kind. Do you remember, Mark, that when we talk, with Tal Ben Shahar, happiness, the guy from Harvard,
yes.
Ron, and we were discussing with him about this specific question, and he said that his most important value is being kind, being nice. He said being nice, and you said something quite similar. So I think we are going to, or we are drawing a path or the right direction. Hope so, Mark.
And actually, as I said, I think that the values are like very similar all over the world. And it's true that we have not spoken with people from all the countries around the world, but
this guy is from Israel.
Yeah, and he works at Harvard, right? He's a professor.
Yeah, he works in Harvard. You're from Canada. We're here in Spain. But at the end, we
just to greet people, right? Like on the street, we've been doing a lot of walking now, my wife and I, and just you see people on the street and we greet them, and we find it kind of funny when some people don't say anything, right? And it's just like, hi, how are you? Hola. But some people just walk right past, and it's like, it's okay. Like we kind of laugh a little bit about it, but it's like, be kind, because somebody may need that, right? For you to be warm to them, to engage with them. Like I said before, we're social beings, and we need to.
I don't know, Mark, if you have any questions, because we're almost out of time. 30 minutes go so fast.
No, I think I'm pretty done, because it was nice listening to what Ron said. I think that understanding peace from a perspective as yours, it's quite helpful, right? Because I don't know, but it's hard to be in peace even with your parents. So how can you forgive people that made you suffer, or like so many families,
Yeah,
what you passed through? So it's very helpful to see that it's tough, but it's possible.
for sure.
So, as we always say at that point of the show, now, our ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's time to reflect. It's time to awake your critical spirit. We've listened to Ron Difrancesco. What else to add? No, Mark. just wrong here. And it's now your time. Just put your head in working mode and let your critical spirit awake. So, Ron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Hope
guys.
you enjoyed.
Thank you for having me. It's been great and really nice to connect with you too, Mark.
Okay.
You too, Ron.